I tend to stay up too late playing video games. Risk of Rain, Minecraft, Lethal Company. Realistically, I'm not up that late, but it's enough that I'm dragging the next day. I could just work on my self-control and go to bed at a reasonable time, but I think video games can also be the answer. Minecraft actually created a solution for sleepless players back in 2017, the Phantom. They spawn when the player hasn't slept in a while, and they attack to remind them to go to sleep. The plan is to make a Phantom model, and then use electronics to have it swing down and attack and remind me to go to sleep. To do it right, I need bright glowing green eyes, a piercing screech, I need some trigger condition to initiate the attack, and then some mechanical way to start the drop. For the brain, I used a Raspberry Pi Pico running CircuitPython, and as far as circuits go, it's actually pretty straightforward. LEDs for the eyes are easy on-off. The amplifier was an Adafruit tutorial that worked right away. Then I had to sort through some dead servos, but eventually I had one working consistently. I spent way too long designing overly complicated drop mechanisms that involved the servo, and then ultimately just figured out that I could rest the arm on the hook, and just twisting of the arm, like the default servo arm, would just work. At one point, I thought it would be standalone and that some solar panels in the window would power it, but instead I just got a 15-foot micro USB data cable. That solves power, gives me a way to hang the whole thing, and since it's connected to my computer, gives me a way to initiate the drop. I use Windows Task Scheduler to run a Python script every night at 9:30 p.m. that sends a serial message to the Phantom telling it to drop. Task Scheduler only runs if the computer's on and I'm logged in, which gave me an easy way to check if I'm still up. I wanted to make sure I got the function down before I dove into the physical Phantom model, but with the electronics done, it's time for arts and crafts. I planned this project for a while, and I saved a lot of hacking from it. For scale, I settled on an easy 1 pixel equals 1 inch. Then I figured out all the parts that I needed, cut the foam, and glued it all together with spray adhesive. Originally, I was planning to paint the whole model. I spent a while painting on a couple coats of a white flexible primer, just to end up unwrapping the in-game texture, printing it out, and just applied it with the same spray adhesive. Then I used some aluminum tape to make reflectors for the eyes. All the electronics go in the hollow head. I glued in this 3D printed plate as strain relief for the USB cable and to distribute the weight so the foam wouldn't just rip out. I pulled the foam and paper model back to the height it would be dropping from, and I thought making it out of foam would mean that it wouldn't do a whole lot of damage, but I guess with all of the adhesive and paper and some electronics on board, it got some heft. And beyond that, I'll heal, but my monitors won't, so I had to put in some extra safeguards just to make sure it doesn't go too far past my head or rotate around it. Added some additional guidelines, 2 on the wings that should keep it flying straight, then 1 limits how far forward the whole thing can swing. Enough to hit me, but not enough to hit the monitor. With those lines in place, all that was left is a final test with the electronics. It worked! With that done, I set my security camera to record, enabled Task Scheduler, and was ready to enjoy a more consistent sleep schedule. It doesn't really work. The electronics and the code do, but as far as actually getting me to go to bed? Not really. All that it really did is give me anxiety around like 9:30 p.m. The servo resets, so most days I would just hang it back up and sit right back down. Then, on more than a few days, I just slouch lower and continued playing with it hanging over me. It was a fun idea, but in reality, just as useless and annoying as the phantoms are in-game. It turns out I might need some self-control. Thanks for watching anyways.